Okay, very good morning here on Friday the 10th of May 2019. My name is Rishi Patel, co-founder, Master of the Markets, the Elite Traders Conference and the Traders Open Day. And a very warm welcome into the live market update that we always do at the end of the week. On Fridays we publish this market update. It'll be done by either myself or Thiru Nagapan, who is my business partner, fellow trader. So we always publish this with a transparent log of our actual results for the week. It's a good way for us to review our trading opportunities just to make sure things are indeed on track. So let's talk about what we have in store for this market update. So first of all, as you have noticed from the title, we are net flat this week, so no closed positions this week affecting the trading account. So we are net flat, no profit and loss, and that's primarily because we currently only have one open trade, which is unrealized at the moment, so that's not banked, and there have been no other trades this week. I mean, we can take a quick look here at the live trading room journal, and you can see here with me that the last trade closed on the money bars strategy, at least, was the GBP USD, and that was on the 30th of April. It was at the end of last month. So we finished April strong just there, but nothing on the other strategies for us this week. So it has been a quiet week in the market. We also had the bank holiday Monday as well, which was also part of the reason for that just there. So no new opportunities on the live trading room. If we go over to the Elite journal just there, we can also have a look for any new opportunities, but again, if you look carefully, there is nothing new here on the Elite journal for the month of May. Potential opportunities set up, but we didn't get any involved because our criteria wasn't met. Swing profits, again, swing profits is the trade that we are on at the moment on the Aussie dollar just there at this time. So we are on the Aussie dollar on swing profits at the moment. That's the only open trade, but it hasn't realized a profit or a loss, so we can't document it in the results for this week. Anything that's done for this week has to be crystallized profit and loss. Same thing on prime profits. Again, take a look. No new opportunities for the month of May though so far, and the same thing then with gold bars as well. If you have a look at gold bars, we don't have any new opportunities for the month of May as well. So both trading rooms are quite quiet this week in particular, except for this one trade we are running on swing profits on the Aussie dollar at this time. We'll see how that pans out, and most likely we'll update you into next week with whatever the crystallized profit or loss on that particular trade opportunity was. So that's it in terms of trade updates. I want to do a world market review as well. We want to look at a couple of key markets such as the Dow Jones. I want to look at some cryptocurrencies as well, and of course the major markets, the major currencies that we normally trade here in the live trading room, the Vedanta Elite rooms as well. We'll do that review, and then of course we'll finish with the topic for this week, which is on phases and cycles. So let us go through the world markets at this time. Okay, so let's take a look at our world markets just here. So first off, we have the Euro US dollar, which is one of the biggest currencies that we do trade here at Master of the Markets. One of the main ones we see most of the upside on as well. So the Euro US dollar is currently, you can see, in a downward trend, very clear. The things to note about this is, first of all, just into the end of April there, we did reach an all-time low for this particular pair. That's the lowest point of the year so far, but actually if you look at it, it's an 18-month low as well. So if you go back, in fact, the price of euro dollar hasn't been this low. If you go back all the way since, let's take a look, yeah, all the way back to here, 2017 May. So 24-month low really is where we are at on the Euro US dollar from the longer term picture. We're still trading this pretty successfully from the money bars perspective, and also from liftoff as well as various other currencies, other strategies in the elite room as well. So this is moving quite nicely. It's got a nicer trend this year than most of the other instruments that we have. Let's take a look at GBP USD. This we had a liftoff trade on last week, which we did take short. Unfortunately stopped us out on the outsider bar just there. Very difficult to predict a move like that, so not really too much we can do now. 20 moving average in between 50 and 100, so not really too much we can do with this. There is a lot of uncertainty around this, given the very obvious political pressures on the pound at the moment, given that Brexit is looming. So I imagine that that will take precedence at least for the rest of this year, at least up until October. So let's see what happens from that point onwards. Dollar Swiss franc again has been trending better than most pairs. We have taken some profitable opportunities on this as well in the live trading room and the Vedanta Elite room. That was the most recent money bars trade we took long just there. It took us all the way up. That was our target, that green line just there, which was quite a nice little trade. Where we banked out the full profit just there. Again, moving nicely. You can see the moving averages are stacked up in order. We've got to close below the 20 moving average, which is very important for us. That gives us the potential opportunity to look for a lift-off set up in the next coming days and weeks. Keep a lookout certainly for that. Euro yen, take a look again. It's one of the most difficult pairs to trade this year so far. It's ranging, and anything that's ranging like this, not really giving fluid movement, is going to be more tricky to place trades around. We've experienced that certainly this year so far. And the Aussie dollar again as well, it's pretty much the same. It's really bound within this quadrant here, because we're really not seeing much fluidity in the market for much movement, making it very, very difficult to trade a pair like this successfully. The other issue that we're seeing this year so far is a lot of the big moves that are taking place like this seem to be taking place counter trend, so counter to the overall trend, and that's causing an issue. Typical again here on this dollar yen, if you take a look at this large phase that's taking place at the moment, this is a counter trend phase. So these are more difficult to capture. And we do have strategies that we're designing actually that will capture counter trend moves and hold, but those are in design process, so will take some time to knock out. Let's take a look at gold. Gold had quite a nice rise into the later part of last year. So you can see we did get down to some lows just here of around about $1,100, $1,155. We've seen some upside just there and a little pullback into this year so far. Not really performing as well, gold, and now starting to compress as well, much like the Aussie dollar, really into quite a region, so not really ideal. Oil, a little stagnant recently as well, not really doing too much, recovering a lot from some of the big crash that oil has had generally, but you can see if you look at it overall, it is still pretty reasonably priced at $61 just there. So you can see it has picked up a lot off of its lows, but it's still also got a long way to go if it's to reach anywhere near what it was in the past. Take a look at the FTSE 100, which is just again ranging here more than anything. Not really too much movement on this. That's the weekly chart, so you can see this covering quite a period of time. Did have a fall off just here, but that's then recovered since. It'll be interesting to see what happens in the next coming days and weeks with that. Let's look at a daily time frame, which will give us a little more depth. This does trend better. Having said everything, I mean, this does trend better. Something like this on the FTSE 100. So you can see we are getting some smoother moves here. Will be a little bit more difficult to trade on the longer term strategies, but certainly there will be opportunities available on this. Quick look at Bitcoin, see what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin is on the move. It did reach some lows down here of around about $3,000. You can see actually recently it's doubled back up to $6,000. It's a nice little move here. This may very well be a nice buy point. You can see historically, of course it's easier to tell historically on any market, but this was a point of accumulation. I still believe that we'll see more downside on the Bitcoin before we see a better buying opportunity in the medium to long term, I would say, towards the end of this year. Let's see how this is still performing. It is an interesting one. It's given away a lot of its gains, and now it's pulling back a little bit, which is natural and to be expected. Keep a lookout on that one just there. Okay, for the final part of our weekly market roundup, I want to do a quick video on cycles and phases, and this is something that I was teaching in a recent coaching session, and it came to my awareness that it would be good to make a video on this just to explain how we trade and use cycles and phases in the market. So one of the main things that you need to be able to do consistently is very important, of course, is to identify trend. So the way that I teach trend identification is the simplest way of doing it, and there's a much more elaborate reasoning behind why it can be simplified to what I'm going to show you. But I mean, the simplest way of looking at this is just to look at whatever the most recent swing high or swing low is that has been broken. So if you look, this is the most recent swing high, it has not been broken. This is the most recent swing low, and it has been broken. So this would make this into a downward trend. This is how we can quickly identify what the current trend is on any market, as long as you have, of course, the smart money indicator. And here you can see, take a look, you've got Euro US dollar, which is breaking the most recent swing low, which makes it a downtrend as well. And if you look at something like this, let's say the pound US dollar, most recent break is going to be this previous swing low, of course making this into a downtrend as well. So once you've identified trend, it's also then important to be able to identify phases as well. Now the way phases work are quite simple. We have two phases. The first phase we have is 1, and then the second one, of course, is 2. So how do you identify a phase 1 or 2? Well, the answer is it depends on the trend. If you're in an upward trend, in an upward move, and you have a market that's doing something like this, and then pulling back, and then doing this, running this again, and then pulling back. So this is a clear upward trend. So what we would say here is, the way we'd identify these phases is that the phase that's in line with the trend, with the actual overall move, with momentum, would always be phase 1. So phase 1 is always the move that's in line with momentum, and then you can see phase 2 is the pullback move. Okay, so in this case, the bottom to top moves in this are, of course, phase 1s, your momentum moves, and your top to bottom moves are your phase 2 retracement moves. So this is phase 1 and phase 2 on this diagram. Now, if we had a downward trend, then we're going to have something that looks a little bit like this. So you've got then a pullback, then again you've got a move lower, and then a pullback, and then onwards. So how would we identify phases and cycles here? So quite simply, the move that's in line with the overall trend with momentum is phase 1. In this case, this is phase 1. Phase 2 is your retracement, phase 1 again, phase 2, and then of course phase 1. This is how you identify different different phases. Now the complication becomes when you see a break of a previous swing. So let's take a look at this as an example, and then we'll apply it to the chart. Now let's say that you have the downward move here, so we already know that this is phase 2, but then the low here is broken, the swing low is broken. Then what happens from that point is that this part of the move is actually classed as phase 1, the part that is after the break of the swing low, because the trend has changed from an uptrend to a downtrend, and so now this is the phase that is in line with the overall momentum. But this part of the cycle here was still a phase 2 because it was assumed that it would remain as an upward trend. So that's the way to do it. Let's take a look at some examples on the charts. So if we start from the lowest point just here, we can see that we are in an uptrend. So this is all going to be just here. We'll start from this point onwards. This is going to be phase 1. And this, of course, was a retracement of a downward trending move. So this was actually phase 2. Again, take a look here. This is the downward move against the overall trend, phase 2. And then again here you got phase 1. And you got phase 2 again. and phase 1 and onwards. Okay, so that's the idea just there. So this is how you'll dictate them. Now what happens when you actually get a break? Now take a look at this. This is where you've broken. So here, this part of the move would be classed as, of course, phase 2. Here's your phase 1 again. Then look at this. This is phase 2, but after it breaks this previous swing low, this part of the move is actually phase 1 downtrend. So at the moment, we're currently in a phase 2 downtrend. So that's the point. Once we get a confirmed top here, if we get a confirmed top here, that will then resume to be phase 1 downtrend. So this is how to determine trends and phases. So study this and have an understanding of how we're actually dictating these phases, and you can use a consistent method to do your own work just there as well. Trust that's been useful. I look forward to speaking to you all soon. Until the next time, stay disciplined, follow your trading plan, keep trading like a master. Bye.